TV.
Good morning to you. Thank you for watching Morning at NTV. This is Stephen Mbide coming to you live from Serena International Conference Center and the hotel here in Kampala. This morning we woke up, many people woke up to the unfortunate news of 9 cases of the coronavirus pandemic that is ravaging the whole world. At least these cases are in Uganda, 9 cases, but all across the world, many people are waiting, many people are in panic. The businesses are in lockdown. Companies are also running down. They are in a meltdown just because of this pandemic that began in, was first discovered in the city of Wuhan, that is in China, but has been spreading across the world. And this is causing panic in companies, in everywhere, in families, and across various cities. But we know that whenever there is panic, of course, companies, employees, employers are also disturbed and perturbed on what to do. I'm going to be speaking to people who are in the know of what should be done by the employers, what should be done by employees, and these are none other than the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And with me here is Mr. Alex Asimwe, is the Commissioner of Productivity, Labor and Industrial Relations. Good morning, Mr. Asimwe.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm okay. Now that we know that this pandemic is ravaging the world, the employees and employers are in a panic. Already some companies and organizations have already laid off some employees, and others are telling them just go on leave. And others are saying that, you know what, business is not moving on well. But how do you as the ministry, or how do you as the commissioner, how would you tell the employees and employers what should they be doing in such a situation that we are in right now?
First of all, I would like to thank NTV for hosting me, but also most importantly to thank the leadership of this country for being able to show the direction in enhancing what you would call employer-employee relationship. It's no doubt that this COVID-19 has a serious negative impact on the world of work. As you may be aware, schools have been suspended, the airlines are not working, some of the employers in the hotel industry are scaling down their activities, and that means that the relationship between the employer and the employee, this is now the apex. This is the time that they need to come together. This is the time that they need to realize that this is a serious problem. This is a global problem that needs to be tackled calmly, but following the standards that have been set by HE, the President, by the Minister of Health, in ensuring that we prevent the more infections from coming into the world of work. For us, from the world of work and from the labor perspective, is that termination at this time is very expensive, because once you do terminate, and particularly you undertake what we call illegal termination, you have to do a lot to do with payment of terminal benefits, redundancies, severance pay. At this particular time, it is very, very expensive. So,
Mr. Simwe, yes, it's very expensive, but you remember in Uganda, many people are just not working on contracts. Many are just picked from wherever. They just come and say, hey, I need some job, I need some money to take me through. So this person cannot come to you, cannot come anywhere to complain, because doesn't have a contract, doesn't have anything to show that, yes, I'm working with such and such organization. How is that possible practically?
The law is very clear. The law provides that, a contract can be made orally or written. And the law provides that a person who has been in a relationship or in employment, that person, the act provides the protection. And therefore, for the most important aspect here, we are talking to the employers and employees, is number one, that in case laying off is unavoidable, then number one is that they have to look at options of temporary layoff. They can give leave with pay, or employees can accept leave without pay. or they can follow what, when you read the law about Section 84, it provides that you can undertake a temporary layoff on condition that these workers, when the situation normalizes, you'll be able to do what? To reabsorb them. So the law is very clear. What we are trying to do is to avoid or prevent what we call illegal terminations, because illegal terminations, first of all, come with high costs of litigation, wastage of time, employers. And there are avenues where employer and employee can come on table and discuss. For those employment, for those enterprises that have trade unions, they can review the collective bargaining agreements and ensure that they do temporary layoff, or they give people leave with pay or with no pay, but ensure that these workers, at the base of my mind, that they are prepared in terms of they provide psychosocial support, psychosocial counseling, but also most importantly, these workers must protect themselves. They must adhere to the guidelines that have been issued by the President and the Minister of Health.
Okay, Mr. Simwe, you're talking about preparing the worker psychologically, socially, and everything, but we are living in a situation where the economics, products, commercial products, and those consumables, the prices are going high. And you're telling someone that, you know what, things are not moving on well, the business is not doing well. For example, in the tourism and hospitality sector, things are not moving on well, so you need maybe to step back and stay home. And how is this person going to be able, how do you really prepare this person that, you know what, this is the message I'm giving you? How do you start preparing that person? And then how do you send that person to go back home to start up a new life, because has been used to waking up every day and going to that place of work?
I think what is important is, number one, to ensure that workers recognize that this is a global problem. Now, there is nothing on earth that can compete with your life. So once you realize that this is a global problem and it takes life, then being at home is the best option. It is actually the best option.
And feed on what?
Now, the question of feeding, this is now, every time we've been preparing workers. You remember some time back, even we appeared on NTV, and we were talking about the issue of savings. Being able, the Banyankore call it kekereza, that you use little, you use what you have sparingly, so that you can be able to do what? To go through the tough times. Now, these are tough times, and therefore, whatever is at the display, the essential items that the workers have must be used sparingly, because there is no scientific evidence that indicates to us that this problem is likely to end. And that means that all of us,
That is so scary.
It is so scary, but that's the fact. And that's why we are saying that the employers and workers, can you try your level best and ensure that you don't accelerate, you don't bring a situation that can bring infections at the workplace. That's why we are saying, the President was saying, please, if you have no serious business, stay home. Why are you using taxis? Because this is life and death. And there is nothing on earth that competes with life.
Okay, Mr. Asimwe, I just also want to understand, many of these people are just looking at you as the authorities. They think that maybe you, as the Commissioner of Labor, as the Minister, as the Permanent Secretary, maybe you would go to the head of state, the relevant authorities, and plead for them, because prices of commodities are skyrocketing, they are not working, and they are looking at, yes, I'm earning a monthly salary, or I'm earning a daily bread, I cannot go to work. They are looking at you to maybe say, tell these, the traders, the transport officers, maybe not to make the prices of commodities go high, but also you, I don't know what you're doing in that regard.
You are aware that the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development issued a statement on the economic impact of this disease to our economy, and therefore there are some discussions that are ongoing. Particularly to do with the how they can, you know.
But you also know that that statement he presented was also creating more scare, was creating more tension, because it was talking about how many people are going to be sliding back into poverty. So when you look at this statement, it doesn't give more hope than answers.
No. I think the minister, you see, what is important is to give facts. And this is why it is important that when you are handling a global problem like this one, you need facts such that the population can prepare. This is a war that we have to fight and win. You have to be calm, and we must face the consequences it comes with. So the situation, this disease is already with us. We have to find a way to isolate, to put all the measures that have been prescribed by the Ministry of Health to stop new cases from coming up. That's the only way. So, and I want to repeat that you may want money tomorrow, you may want employment tomorrow, but once you have no life, that better job will never be there. Yes.
Okay, also you've been speaking much more about the employees. I also want you to give that particular message to that employer who is also looking at and is just contemplating, should I cut off how many, should I just suspend for now, tell them to go back home, how many should I? Just speak to that person who is an employer right now, trying to balance, see how he can balance the business and keep it afloat.
First of all, the employers need to appreciate the fact that this situation is with us and that it has serious consequences. That's point number one. They need to appreciate, recognize. Then after, they need to put in place measures that have been prescribed by government to ensure that the workers and the employers themselves are protected. Ensuring that, for example, they have to reconfigure the working systems to the Ministry of Health guidelines. For instance, you had yesterday or last night, the Minister of Health talking about social distancing of 4 meters, meaning that they have now to look at if they have been having workers on a certain production line, they have to put in place. Issues to do with the sanitizers, disinfectants, they have to be available. There must be also the supervision to ensure that, because they have not closed the factories, so there is work, but there must be high level of seriousness in terms of following the measures. We have also revitalized our links with the trade unions, with the employers, the Federation of Uganda Employers, and the labor officers to ensure that the workplaces put in place measures that have been prescribed by government.
Okay.
And they also need to offer what we call psychosocial support and review the implementation of safety policy they have in line with Occupational Safety and Health Act of Uganda.
Okay, maybe yesterday I was moving across the streets and I had some people were complaining that, you know, our bosses have given us letters telling us that you now should go for at least 20, 40 days of leave, their annual leave. And they are saying that that leave should be signed in for. And they are saying that now this is a time when I had already prepared that I will go on leave in December and in November. But now they are sending me on leave. That person you've talked about being prepared, this person is not really prepared. And now moving back home, and these people are going to die of cases that are not COVID-19, but cases related to stress, distress, and maybe other illnesses or other cases that are away from, talk about that person, the psychologist, how can they at least be prepared away from the psychosocial, but this person who had already planned to go and live at a later date, but now is being forced to go now.
You know, the fact is, the law, the Employment Act, has key provisions that are relevant in a situation like this.
Okay, just tell that person, if that employer completely terminates that person and has tried to these remedies, where can he or she go and report?
Yes, but what I wanted to say, number one, is that the law provides that if an employer fails to pay wages because of, economic or social, then, and that case is brought before the labor officer can terminate the contract of service. But also Section 40 of the Employment Act is very clear. It provides the duty of the employer, to give work, to provide work. But the section also goes ahead to give exceptions where work may not be provided. For instance, when the contract of service has been frustrated, has been prevented by act of God, and this is what is. So what they need to do is that, number one, Section 19, we have communicated to all employers that they should submit information to the ministry relating to the layoffs.
Okay.
And in case the worker has been unfairly terminated, he can report to us, and we have also given instructions to employers to ensure they provide psychosocial support and counseling to the workers.
Thank you so much. Mr. Alex Asimo is the Commissioner for Labor, Productivity and Industrial Relations at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development here in Kampala. But this message, you've heard it very well, and more guidelines will be issued that I think as everyone, let's adhere to these guidelines that are being issued by the President and the Minister of Health and disseminated by the media. This is Morning at NTV. Stephen Mbide and Fefeso Chibuga taking you back to the studios to Romeo Busiku, who is sitting by and will give you much more information that you need this Tuesday morning.
Thank you, Stephen Mbide, who was talking about